Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Chevelle Moss Savage, and I serve on the board of directors for outCT and also am the Education Committee chairperson. Today is our first 2021 Who's in the Neighborhood, episode number 9. And we will be talking with Kevnisha Boyd of Quality Counseling. I'm so excited to be talking to another human who actually is a therapist and is based out of New Haven. So if you don't mind, Kevnisha, welcome. And I'm just going to jump right into it. How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Chevelle. Happy Monday. I am happy to be here. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I am also happy to be connecting to another human and a therapist. Contact has been very limited, so sharing this space today feels really good. Thank you.
Yes, yes. So, Kevnisha had sent me over her bio, and I said, I don't want to do it justice. I think I'm not going to do it justice. I think I'm just going to let you talk about who you are on your own. So tell me who you are, what your credentials are, and like how long you've been in southeastern portion of Connecticut.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut. And I'm a licensed professional mental health counselor, and
Mm-hmm.
I am a certified EMDR therapist. And I am the CEO of Quality Counseling, which is a private group mental health practice located in Hamden. And we specialize in providing trauma informed, accessible, and affordable mental health care to the Black community. And I'm currently onboarding my first two therapists, so we're growing. Yay, yay, yay.
Yay!
And
Yay
my
for group practice.
Yes, I'm excited to have them a part of the team. They are therapists of color and they are really excited to work with some special populations. So, one of my therapists wants to work with formerly incarcerated people, and then the
Okay.
other therapist wants to work with veterans. So, all falling
Wow.
under the PTSD lens and the trauma informed care. So, I'm really, really excited. So I wanted to dedicate my practice to Black people because I'm Black and that is who I connect to. And I was born and raised in the inner city, exposed to a lot of violence, social disorganization, systematic racism. I am a childhood trauma survivor myself. Both my parents have been incarcerated one time at the same time. Both parents struggle with substance use and mental health issues. So there was a lot of dysfunction, not only within my family, but also within the community. And really, I wanted to always be a helper. Like at a young age, it was like I could feel the hurt, right? And we shared this really collective trauma as a poor community. And so once I went to college, I studied criminal justice and psychology. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to invest into something, I want it to be my community. I want to give back. I want to give back to people that have survived traumatic experience like me, that look like me, that share the same cultural values as me, that get it. That get it. And now that I'm in it, I have this wider lens of understanding that Black mental health providers are very limited. There's a shortage. There's a shortage, and some of these stories that I hear about, like friends and family that have non-Black mental health providers, you know, it breaks my heart because I come from a place where therapy should be your safe space to be your authentic self. And when your therapist has not done any anti racist training or looks at your culture as being exotic or certain cultural values as being maybe psychotic or abnormal, that really does an injustice to the community because as Black people, we are very unique and we have our own stuff, our own way of being. And, you've got to know sometimes. You just got to know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, absolutely. I love Black people. I love Black people. Black people are so special. We've gone through so much and we still show up every day. We show up every day. And I admire that. I really, really do.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much because I'm going to be honest with you. I love your explanation as to why, your unapologetic explanation as to why your practice primarily supports folks who identify as Black or Brown. And And listen, I'm here for it because my practice, it has a specialized area as well for who for members of the LGBTQ community,
Mm-hmm.
who all and also like Black and Brown people. I A lot of my folks identify as LGBTQ. A lot of them do not, but they are like LGBTQ affirming. But they also align with some of my cultural
Yeah.
values, some of my belief systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, I think it's so imperative that we talk about the uniqueness and the intersecting identities of who we are as a people and why that is important to have representation
Yes.
in this field. First of all, there are not a lot of Black and Brown therapists, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There are not a lot of Black and Brown therapists who identify um, as queer and who are licensed, because I believe I'm the only one in New London. Um,
Wow.
I love to be wrong about that. I would love to be wrong
Right.
about that. I'm originally from Virginia. You probably can hear from the accent that comes out every once and again, but I definitely was a unicorn in Virginia, and even more so up here, just because the racial makeup is just so limited, right? When it comes down to that, so Black and Brown people who are in the mental health profession definitely are important, but I think Black and Brown people who can support some of the subsets of our communities, such as those who are veterans, those who identify as LGBTQ, those
Yes.
who pretty much, when you do like the ACE scale, like they're off the charts. People who understand about that trauma and what that looks like, right?
Yes.
So also, like if I'm talking to someone and someone's talking to me, and I say Big Mama, they know what a Big Mama is. That's my
Right.
grandmama. And if I say I'm going to a cookout, it's not a barbecue, it's a cookout. So
Yes.
those little small cultural nuances are important, and also form and forge the therapeutic relationship. So I think that you get that, Kevnisha, and I think that that's so awesome that you bring that into the space and that people do feel safe and affirmed and supported. So that's awesome. So you said that you specialize in trauma, and that was because of your own personal experiences. So you
Yes.
just really wanted to help folks. So when you look back on like your life, and you said you've always wanted to help people, and I think all of us helping professions, I think even with my advocacy, it's so funny because I remember um, when I realized that there was such thing as an apartheid and in South Africa, and so I
Mm-hmm.
stopped using some of the products that I know were being actually used in South Africa or either formulated, So that's when I look back, I was like, dang, I was like only 14, and I was thinking like that. But I think it's part of who we are, and it's
Right.
inherent in us. So, what made you branch out and say, well, I'm just only going to see Black people? And what about, have you had challenges of people who say, well, that's racist or that's discriminatory?
Yeah, I would love to say it was my full intention at first, but it wasn't. So I had worked for a lot of nonprofits for a while. And actually, I had worked for Department of Corrections for about 4 years as a mental health counselor. And then I started to experience some vicarious trauma from the toxic work environment there. So I had to get in therapy, and my therapist really helped me build the courage to do my practice full time. And so, I initially started to see diverse people, right? But innately, I always felt a more deeper, genuine connection with serving Black people. And I find that, like what you were mentioning earlier about like having that connection in terms of just knowing that energized me to be a more effective therapist, right? Like I'm excited to come to therapy, and I'm excited to open up my toolbox, because I get it, right? Like I can connect to that generational trauma and understanding sometimes the conflict between a Black mom and a daughter, and those special traits that trickle down from generation to generation that again other races don't have. So it started out with me seeing everybody. I was a new private practice. So unfortunately, I really had to see who came because I got bills. I got bills.
You got to be on that grind, child. You like,
Listen,
listen,
yeah,
you like, You need some therapy?
Hello. Right.
You a striped zebra? Come on
Right.
in.
Right. Right. Is your insurance active? Yes. Okay. Um. So it started off like that, and then I got a coach. I got a business coach because I knew I wanted to scale and do some rebranding and things like that. And I had proposed the idea to her. Literally, all she said was, "Do it," just like that. She's like, "Do it." Like,
Wow.
what do you have to lose, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do
Yeah.
you have to lose? And so I took the leap, and I'm like, I'm going to change my logo, and I'm going to change my tagline, and I'm going to make my marketing material, you know, targeted to Black people. And that's who comes to me anyway. So
Yeah.
it really
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
we kind of met in the middle of like, yes, this is who I want to serve, but naturally the practice started to just be dominated by serving Black clients. And now I'm like, yes, this is it. This is it.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I want to do. This feels good. I don't mind working hard and staying up late and, making an investment. Because it feels good. Like, there's a part of, yes, this is my profession, this is my passion, but again, I'm giving back, like I'm pouring back into the community, and I can't think of anything more fulfilling,
Mhm.
especially shifting from having worked from nonprofit and then a very restrictive system like Department of Corrections to now
Mhm.
being in private practice. I can do what I want. I
Mhm.
can do what I want. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not a traditional therapist. I certainly take a more holistic, alternative type of approach. And I some of my techniques are, just not traditional. Like, I use a lot of creative writing, a lot of visualizations. I love using imagination. We do yoga. We listen to music. I mean,
Mhm.
full box, right? Like, I don't have anybody saying you've got to fit into this checkbox of evidence-based
Mhm.
practices. It's like,
Mhm.
no, I get to meet my clients where they are, and I get to be creative and really make a personalized, right, healing journey, because
That's
it
right.
needs to be. It
That's
needs to
right.
be. Yeah.
I love that. I love isn't it so liberating that when
Ooh.
you're in your own private practice, right? Because
Hmm.
I before I um went into my own private practice, I worked in a university setting. So you can imagine I've worked for nonprofits. I also have worked for small mom and pop profit agents, for profit agencies, and then also have worked in university settings in the college counseling center. And so it's that you have to do a certain thing with them, and
Yep.
even when I would do my out of the box thinking and we would have our treatment team meetings or whatever, the the director will be looking at me like I was like, yeah. And so I assigned some cinematography for my client, and they was like, because I was like, I told them to go watch Single White Female and
Right.
bring back some themes that they thought about, and they. Why'd you do that? I was like, because there were some boundary issues with their roommate, and I
Hmm.
wanted them to see that,
Yep.
and so, and even then they're like, huh, okay, no, we need you to stay in this box. We need you to do it this way.
Right.
And so being able to be free and bring into a holistic component of all of those things. I love that you use yoga. I love that you are using imagination. I love that you're using music. I mean, all of those things are so important. And it's like a one-stop shop, right?
Right.
And I love the fact that you say you curtail it specifically to the client. Because one thing about it is that I think a lot of times, and this is how burnout occurs, and you can tell when burnout starts to be when, like, you treat everybody the same, and it's
Hmm.
not. Everybody's trauma affects them differently, right? And there
Hello.
are some things that, like, I'm reading this book now called Unfuck Your Brain, which actually is a very good book, right? And it talks about anxiety and trauma and all of that, but it's talking about specifically that we've all experienced trauma in some shape, form, or fashion, but our brain has been able to orchestrate and navigate it. And then some ways our brain was like, yo, that was a lot. I don't know how we're gonna get through this. So that's when PTSD sets in. Okay, so I'm
Yes.
doing it in like a more, funny, gregarious way. But I mean, seriously, that's how it is. And so a lot of times people don't understand that this up here affects our physical body as well. And so the fact that you're utilizing movement and
Mhm.
using the senses and all of that, I'm just so excited about that. I will tell you, viewers, that I follow Kevnisha on the gram of Insta. And so one of her tools that she talks about, that she uses is it Therapy Card Thursday? Is that it?
Yes, yes, my
So tell
therapy
us about that.
cards.
Tell us about that.
Yes, so I have a group of friends. We're all therapists, and so we exchange resources. And one of them had introduced us into the My Therapy cards. So I like it mainly. Well, yeah, one of the main reasons is it's developed by a Black psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big deal. So
Exactly.
the packaging is targeted towards Black
Isn't that some
women.
nice packaging? Because I ordered them
Beautiful.
after I saw it on I ordered them.
Yes.
Let me, Dr. Ebony. I was like, girl, I'm impressed.
I
I am
love her.
impressed.
Yes.
Look.
Yes, and they're so cute. They're so cute. And sometimes I even use them with my teenagers. So what I
Mhm.
like is that it comes in cards, so it takes away the formality and the seriousness of some of the content of the questions,
Mhm.
right? So even like sometimes I'll be with my friends and I'll be like, let's pop out a card, right? It's less threatening versus
Yeah.
this formal
Yeah.
conversation of tell me why you have a hard time saying no. It's more like let's just the card says this is what the card wants to
So it takes the
know.
pressure off of you. Like.
Absolutely, absolutely right. But and also it just forces you to sit still and answer some questions that you
Mhm.
may be blocking or suppressing, and you really have to go inside. You really have to
Yeah.
go inside.
Yeah.
And to me, you've got to learn the things that make you uncomfortable in order to get to the healing.
Mhm.
We've
Mhm.
got to we've got to know. We've got to know. So I use them all the time, especially for my clients that might not be as high functioning or verbal, right?
Mhm.
So me saying, how was your day? Or why did that argument upset you? They may not be able to verbally articulate boom, boom,
Mhm.
boom. Then I
Mhm.
go, okay. Or even maybe I might have a stubborn teenager, right? Therapy what? Therapy who? What's that? I don't know feelings. What you mean
My mama
feelings?
made me come.
Right. And I gotta pull out the feelings chart and I'm like, there's 30 feelings up here. Just pick one. Just pick one. Right.
I
So
don't have no feelings.
right. So it gives it like this playful spin of, do you want to pull a card today? And sometimes they're excited about it. Like, yeah, let's pull
Yeah.
a card.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
able to get a lot of helpful information out of that. Sometimes I use it with not my couples, but if I have a client that is having some relationship stress, like
Uh-huh.
we'll answer the question together. And then, right, it's, hey, for homework, how about you have a collective conversation with your partner, right? And so
Oh,
you
yes, yes, yes.
guys can hear each other's perspective about what's happening.
Mhm.
So I use them all the time. So I love them therapy cards, and they come in a little tin can, so they stay
Yes.
clean and
Yes.
and done, and they're cool. They're really really
And she
cool.
gives you like at the beginning, you gives you instructions on how to use them.
Yes.
There's like a little emotions wheel. Yeah, so I actually have incorporated them into some of my sessions as well. And they break down into mindset, triggers, and it's another one. I forget what is the other
It
one.
is.
Mindset,
Oh, I got them right
triggers,
here. Shoot.
and listen, this is free advertisement, Dr. Ebony.
What is it? The yellow one.
Mindset, triggers, and something else.
I know, where is it? I got them all right here too.
I know.
I'll find it.
Yeah. But
Okay.
anyway, so that's an option for folks. Now I heard you mention teenagers. Tell me what your oh you have it?
Habits.
Habits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Habits.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And I love the fact that they also have at the end if you want to write in your own questions. So that's good as well. Which you probably could do like with dry erase marker. So if you
Right.
depending on anything, you can erase it. So tell me the population that I know that you serve Black and brown people, but tell me like the age range.
Yes,
And like, do you do
absolutely.
individuals, groups, third, like couples? Tell me.
Yes, so I see professional millennial Black women anywhere ranging from primarily 25 to about 40.
Okay.
I do have a couple teenagers that I've just been seeing for a while, and
Hmm.
especially because of the pandemic.
Hmm.
I keep them on my caseload. I keep them on my caseload because they're comfortable, and I don't mind. I don't mind keeping
Okay.
them, but primarily, definitely millennial professional Black women that have experienced complex trauma. So you
Mm.
said something earlier about the ACEs, and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I like the ACEs. I think it should be talked about and considered a lot more than it
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
And what I like about the ACEs is because I think people get clouded by the word trauma, right? Because it has the connection to war. And it's like, well,
Hmm.
like you said,
Hmm.
actually anything can really be traumatic. So I
Hmm.
really sometimes switch the word trauma with stressful,
Mm.
because
Mhm.
essentially that's really what it is. It's a stressful experience can become traumatic.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
when we talk about the ACEs, which is the adverse childhood experience study, um, people have no, a lot of people don't have a lot of insight in terms of how some of those adverse experience have manifested into trauma and what that looks like into their adult life. So full disclosure, my ACE score is an 8 out of 10.
That's
So
so for the layperson, that's pretty high. For the
yeah,
layperson, that's pretty
yeah,
high. Yeah.
I've almost
For folks who
experienced.
are not therapists, that's a pretty high score.
Yeah, and here I am. Here I
And
am.
here you are. Look at you
Here
with
I
your
am.
resilient self
Yes,
and a
right.
whole practice. You better do
Hello.
it. Look,
Hello.
you better do
Here
it.
I am. Yes. Yes, yes. With a lot of help. A lot of help. A lot of help, a lot of healing. So yeah. I lost my train of thought. Let me see. So ACEs, yes. So the complex trauma, really what I enjoy doing is we do a trauma inventory, right? So at first, I just ask, tell me about some traumatic experiences that you've gone through, right? People usually identify their big traumas, which are like, significant big events. And then what I do is called personality part exploration. And really,
Mhm.
the clinical term would just be exploring ego states. And
Mhm.
literally, I go through every stage of development, right? Like, what were you like in elementary school? Or what type of things were you into? What was happening? What was your teachers
Mhm.
like? What were your relationships with your peers like? And so much comes out. And then
Mhm.
right, as the therapist, then have the insight to be able to start connecting some dots in terms of like, okay, because I tell people the answer to most uncomfortable feelings or most symptoms is an earlier experience.
Mhm.
The question I say, what does this remind you of? And sometimes we can go back to three or four.
Mhm.
Three or four.
Mhm.
I have clients that have identified traumatic experience before they could even talk.
Wow. Wow.
So yes, I love going through the stages of development. And then you get a more chronological sequence of things in terms of how this
Mhm.
event paired with that, and then that, and then that, and then again, right now the client has this mirror of, and how's that showing up today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it is, right? Like trauma doesn't have to present itself as a memory or a nightmare. I tell people, oh no, no, no. It shows up in terms of your behavior and showing up in your relationship and showing up in your interpersonal types of skills. That's how it's showing up. You don't gotta remember it. The body does. You do not got to remember it.
Let me tell you something, ma'am. I am so energized and excited because the fact you just broke down so many barriers around the word trauma. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, people associated with war and like being deployed and all of that. But somebody has experienced a stressful event.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody has. But
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes we remember it and sometimes we don't. And I love the fact that you were like, I mean, it was so simplified in how you explained it. So I know that if like I'm over here like geeking out like this is so awesome. So and so I know that your clients equally enjoy your very um simplistic, um not over jargoned way of
Mm.
explaining things. Because sometimes you don't listen, Kevin, you know
Yeah.
how it is when we get those degrees and stuff, we start using them SAT words.
Right.
And people like, and you can like sometimes that's good, but sometimes you will lose people and they miss out on healing and the bigger picture because they're really not
Yes.
understanding what you're saying.
Yes.
Or the words have been so intimidating to them in the past that they don't feel comfortable even
Mm-hmm.
talking about it, or they don't even recognize it as a trauma.
Right.
Think about it. If you are in a dysfunctional house, you don't realize that that house is dysfunctional until you start seeing some stuff that is normal. And I don't even like to use the word normal, but see some things that are not as dysfunctional as that, because we all have some dysfunction. We all
Yes.
got something.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're like, oh, everybody, mom and daddy don't get drunk and beat them.
Right. Right.
Oh, everybody don't like not have food in their refrigerator. That's not normal. You know, but and then you go and you start having experiences with other
Mm-hmm.
people, and you're like, oh, y'all have food all the time. Oh,
Right.
your mom and dad help you with homework. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you actually have access to the internet. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, some of these things people just assume and don't understand that this is not a behavior that is happening in all households. And so
Right.
they're like, it's not trauma, that's just how it was.
Right. Right. We had to survive. Right. Like
Exactly.
that's the
Exactly.
story for a lot of Black people is I really try to shift people's perspective in terms of their toxic behaviors. Because I say to them, right, like we may be able to identify it as being toxic now, but I guarantee it likely was a defense mechanism at some point, right?
Hmm.
So before you
Hmm.
carry all this shame about this unhealthy behavior that you develop, let's just float back for a second and see how early did this behavior once keep you safe?
Come on. That's right. A protective factor.
Yeah,
Like I need
absolutely.
the veil of secrecy. You know how it is in the Black community. You don't talk about anything outside that house.
You bet not. Bet not
You better
ever.
not, because you'll get a beat down when you get back in.
Listen, because what's done in my house stays in my house.
Exactly. You don't talk about that. And one of the things that you brought up, which I really love, is that understanding the intricate nature of a Black mom and a Black
Mm,
daughter. And I know that a lot of times when I am supporting people who identify as Black women, right, that they really have a hard time having conversations about some of the negative things or the stressful events that have happened to them at the hands of their Black mom, because
let's
we don't
get
talk
into
about
it.
that
Let's get
as a
into it,
culture.
Chevelle.
We don't talk
Listen.
about it. You don't talk about your mama. I can say all the things I want to about my mama, but I'm not
Listen.
talking about her to you, right? That's not something
Yes.
we do as a culture, and to understand that component, right? To
Yes.
understand that that's where a lot of the abuse and the trauma lies, because we have been raised to have a veil of secrecy, and then how that evolves into us not being able to advocate for
Yes.
ourselves in adult life.
Yes.
You know what, Kevin, I ain't gonna take
Listen.
you on this interview and talk. We could
Listen.
be in this all day. But look, let me go to some other questions.
Okay. Okay. Because I can go. Because
We
woo.
can both
Yes.
listen, Chad. This is what happened when you in a quarantine and you like, I'm so
Right.
excited that it's another Black therapist that get it, right? But um So one of the things that oh my gosh, I know you, what have you had to do in shifting your business? I hear all of the great things that you're doing for COVID-19. What have you had to do? Incorporate like therapy, right? Like
Hmm.
I didn't realize how much of an extrovert I was until because I'm licensed both in Connecticut and in Virginia. So I still see people in Virginia as well.
Okay.
And so those, of course, were teletherapy sessions because I live now in Connecticut. But when I had to go into seeing everybody only online, I didn't realize that I missed that energy exchange from my clients so much,
Mm.
and the in-person energy exchange, and I was
Hmm.
like, yo, this is a lot.
Right.
So how have you, and also Zoom fatigue is a real thing.
Real pain in my neck. Real
Yes,
pain in
yes.
my neck.
So
Like,
how have you
yeah.
had to shift your business model to kind of help you continue to support and still be engaging and all of that with your clients?
Yes. So I had to change the whole model, to be honest. So literally like a couple weeks before the height of the pandemic, I was looking at some pretty big office space, and I had plans to knock down walls and paint and all this stuff. All this stuff. So I just was gonna
Wow.
move into this physical space and it was gonna be great. Well, yeah, Corona said no. It
Yeah.
it said no. So I had no experience with telehealth before. So
Really?
when yeah, once we were forced into it, I had to adjust and
Mhm.
learn platforms, and I had to adjust to it. And I didn't really have to sell it to my clients. They were kind of on board with things, but I'm not necessarily a tech savvy person. So that
Mhm.
was a big learning curve for me.
Mm,
um
mhm,
you know Converting the practice to now being paperless
mhm,
was somewhat of a challenge. Now being able to serve all of Connecticut, which
mhm.
this is a good problem.
Yeah.
Now just being able to serve the whole state, just
Mm.
increase referrals. So just needing more help essentially because more
Wow.
referrals are coming
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
But yeah, the whole business model. Yeah, I'm more on the side of, and this is just the therapist in me, where I just reframe everything. It's really hard for me not to do it.
Yeah.
You
A
know,
byproduct of the work. It's a
yeah,
byproduct of our work.
I honestly take more positive outcomes from the pandemic than I do negative.
Mhm,
In terms of now shifting the business model, but now it is more accessible.
mhm, mhm,
Now I do have a wider range, right?
mhm,
Now I can bring on other therapists to serve more people.
mhm,
Um, Now I can eat healthier because I'm not eating out and I don't necessarily got to pack a
mhm.
lunch because my kitchen is right there. um, and just the stillness has taught me a lot also in terms of
Mm,
even just being grateful for human contact. I'm
mhm,
definitely more appreciative of it now.
mhm,
um I definitely think it's forced me to step outside of my comfort zone because now I have to be intentional about networking and connecting with people.
mhm,
Now I have to, like, it's on the to-do list, like making sure I'm building continuous relationships, because prior to the pandemic, we would go to conferences or wherever, and that's how
yeah.
we would meet people. But none of that's not happening in person now. So,
Mhm,
I've definitely been leaning on social media a little bit more to just, connect with other therapists, and to build a sense of community. Because originally my office space, well, it still is, it's a shared space.
mhm,
So, having other therapists in this space and we pop
mhm,
on the door, hey, how was your day? How was your session? And even
mhm,
just somewhat of that like peer not supervision, but like peer consultation,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Like that feels good. I
Yeah,
enjoy that in
yeah,
private practice, being
yeah.
able to bounce ideas off and get a different perspective and get
Mhm,
insight, maybe even from a different modality. So,
mhm,
um, yeah, I mean, it does suck. I'll say what's been the heaviest is the grief and the loss that my
Mhm.
clients are experiencing,
Mhm.
again, on top of me also experiencing those same things. So now we
Mhm.
have a pandemic and a civil rights movement at the same
Absolutely.
time.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
again, right, like how do we start to process trauma when actually we're all again collectively experiencing this civil rights movement together? We all watched George Floyd die together.
Mhm. Mhm.
So me having to hold space for them, but
Mhm.
also making sure that I'm doing the things to take care of myself
That's right.
all at the same time.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
man, 2020 was the year of juggling,
Yeah.
juggling and shifting and adjusting to things that none of us have any control over.
Yeah.
None of us. So it was a real heavy year. Just the amount of, not even the loss of, from the death of people, but the loss of independence, the loss of your work
Mhm.
physical space, the loss of
Mhm.
traditions. Thanksgiving
Mhm.
and Christmas was hard this year.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
Black people, we have very specific traditions. And
Mhm.
so all of that stuff, got pushed to the side.
Yeah.
So it was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
not gonna see my
Yeah.
family on the holidays, and
Yeah. Exactly.
the
Because you want to keep them safe. Exactly.
right.
Exactly. And that was one of my other questions for you is that how were you shifting your personal making adjustments with it? But I seem like you've done that. You also are holding space for yourself. You also are a part of a peer consultation group. And I am too. Actually, my my peer consultation group that I'm a part of, majority of the people are in Richmond. That's where I'm originally
Mm,
from. But then we also have someone that lives in California. And so and the makeup is of all different like there's some psychologists, there's a LMFT, there's some LPCs, and so and it's great to hear different perspectives, and everybody has a way in which they come
yep.
at things. We have a human that we say that probably is the most affirming, client-centered therapist that we've ever. Because you could be having the roughest day, and she will find something great and insightful to say to make you
Mm.
feel great, right? And it's
You need people
genuine.
like
It's
that.
like that's just
Hmm.
how she is, right? And then you have the other therapists who are like sharp and direct, like me. So so listen, if you need a shrinking violet, honey,
Right.
I'm not your girl. I'm not your girl. But but I
Same.
will affirm you now. I'm gonna affirm
Right.
you. Look, and I'm gonna support you. But also I'm gonna call you out on your mess when you cut up.
Hello. Right. Yeah.
um, and people really appreciate that. So I think that I love the fact that you mentioned about the loss, right? And as Black and Brown people watching, um, you know, us die
Yeah.
because we are more susceptible to the pandemic because of
Hmm.
pre-existing conditions. Watching the racial unrest, right? Um, and also recognizing that, you know, all Black Lives Matter, but some of the Black lives that were being shouted out were not some of the trans people who were dying, right? Like in
Hmm.
between George Floyd and all that, Tony McDade died, and he's a Black trans man at the hands of police, and nobody was
Yeah.
shouting his name out,
Right.
and so I think also recognizing what that looks like as a community and trying to hold space for that and take care of yourself. But it seems like you
Hmm.
recognize the importance because we are first responders.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we are first responders, and
And
we
we're often
we've
forgotten
always
about.
had to deal with
Hmm.
vicarious trauma, right? We've always
Right.
had to deal with that because there is no way we could do what we do, right? And
Yeah.
not be able to move through life. I'm so glad that you said that you are you got therapy and all of that. I tell everybody I'm a therapist with a therapist, honey, because there is no way I could hear all the things that y'all tell me and not
Hello.
process it with somebody. Cause I would be in some way in somebody's corner rocking back and forth. So
Listen, right. On top of like the family and friends that seek you out because they know what you do, right? Having to be like,
right?
I don't have space
Come on,
today.
come
I
on.
listen, today was a heavy client day. Call me on Saturday. Call me on Saturday, baby girl. Like I
Listen,
can't.
listen. I remember when I first got into this field, I used to feel people would guilt me into like free therapy,
Hmm.
right? They would be like, "Well, you a therapist," and and I really hadn't came into my own of kind of who I was,
Right.
as a therapist. I felt that I needed to help everybody.
Hmm.
We all get into that savior mentality. If not me, then who, child? They'll
Hmm.
find somebody else. Sit down
Hello.
somewhere. You're
Let,
not a saint. We all have been there. We all have been there. And if every therapist has thought that. And if you haven't, you're telling yourself a lie.
right. Right.
So,
Absolutely.
but,
Absolutely.
but at any time, and so now I am, and also I think age has helped me, right?
Mm.
Look, I crossed over 50, and I was like, listen, I have zero blanks to give, and you can fill in the rest.
Hello. Right. This is
Like,
how I'm showing
I,
up, and this is what I got. Yeah.
exactly. And I
Hmm.
was like, listen, yeah, I am a therapist, but I'm not your therapist. So I suggest you blah 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 blah. Or I'm like, that sounds tough. Child, when is your next therapy appointment?
Yeah.
Because you do have to set boundaries.
Oh,
You do have to
absolutely.
set boundaries. I don't, and it's just like it's so funny when you were talking about when you were newly licensed that we had to take everybody. And I remember like, listen,
Hmm.
and I don't see younger humans. I only see people who are 18 and over. When I was in Virginia practicing, I was a part of an organization that hired me to see LGBTQ youth. So I saw those youth, right? Um, but at the end of the day, like I don't see younger humans. I'm like, my jam age is really like college age, because that's when you're figuring stuff out,
Oh, yeah.
and
Hmm.
that's, you were exploring it or whatever. And so that's kind of where I am. But also too, I see like a lot of my caseload, I see like therapists, and as well as other professional women and
Yeah.
things of that nature, um who have boundary issues and say stuff like, I just got a big heart. No, you don't. You got boundary issues.
Right. People pleasing as a trauma response. Right.
This is a trouble, because it was, and like you said, at one point in time, it protected you, right?
Yeah.
It was a survival mode. So, with that, tell us how we can find you on social media, honey, because our viewers need to know. So, just viewers, just so you know, our who's in the neighborhood is expanding, because we actually trying to find either queer or queer affirming businesses throughout the state of Connecticut, or local areas, especially, who are in maybe 45-minute radius that can be reached, right? And so, and also people who are engaging and supporting folks who look like us. And so at the end of the day, to have a therapist who identifies as Black, but also could understand the Black experience, as well as work with people who identify as LGBTQ, that is awesome. That's a component. And I know that you and I have talked offline, and you said that you definitely enjoy working with members of that population. But tell us how we can find you on social media. And do you have anything upcoming like that you're doing, or any programs or workshops or anything like that?
Yes, thank you. So, just to echo off what you said, I do work with Black women who are a part of the LGBTQIA community.
Come
Make sure I
on,
got it all.
IA.
Yeah,
That's
right.
right. That's
Listen,
what.
listen.
Listen,
I am
listen.
sensitive. Listen. So, I absolutely do. And even within my client population, I'll say majority of the time there usually is a traumatic experience that is connected to their sexual identity that doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily have to be sexual abuse.
Hmm.
So I do find that when we're processing trauma, that there are some complexes that do go along with that, originating from childhood, that even sometimes could be like a gesture or a negative comment from a teacher
Mm.
that then can shape.
And follow you,
Yes,
right? Yes,
yes,
you can't even be your authentic self. Like if you are a tomboy, right,
yes,
and then a teacher makes a comment, then
yes,
sometimes we will go in the opposite direction to show that we are not being in our girl, it's so layered. Yes, I'm
So
glad you did it.
layered. Yes, 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 yes,
Yes.
yes. So to find me, best way is my website. So www.qualitycounselingct.com. And my
Okay.
social media handles are Facebook and Instagram at Quality Counseling CT. Yes. So
Awesome.
upcoming, what I have is I'm actually incorporating some plant-based wellness and education services. So,
Oh, okay. You're
yes,
talking about like the vegan kind of situation?
as what would you say?
Vegan or like a plant, like really, like you plant like hands in soil.
Like plant like cannabis.
Oh,
Plant
I love it.
like
You,
cannabis.
I went straight to vegan, and then like you talking about you planting some herbs. You like, they
Yeah,
are herbs.
it's herbs. Yeah, so the connection is that it's a lot. So the one connection is that PTSD is the only qualifying mental
That's
health
true.
condition
Hmm.
that you can get for a medical marijuana certification. And with that, the certification is really expensive, which again is oppressive and racist. I
Hmm.
think it's about
Hmm.
$300 to get a medical
Oh, it
marijuana
went up.
card.
It was 200. And you have to pay for the diagnosis,
Well,
you have to
yeah,
get the
right,
card, and
right,
then you also have to get like your medicine. That's a
right.
lot.
And every year,
What?
every year,
What? Every year?
yes, every year,
Oh, I didn't know
yes.
that. Wow.
Yes, and serving the Black community, what I'm learning is that holistic and plant-based solutions go back to our African
Mhm.
roots. We
Mhm.
don't
Sure
come
does.
from a Western medicine, a
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
civilization. On
Mm-mm.
top of, I mean, we ain't got that much time, but on top of just the trauma within the medical field, right? And how
Mhm.
Black people just do
Mhm.
not find medicine and hospitals or just the whole healthcare system as being trusting.
Exactly.
So a lot of Black people don't even feel comfortable taking psychiatric medications, and
Mhm.
nor is that my go-to anyway. So
Mhm.
I don't come from that line of a solution.
Mhm.
So I'm definitely working on some content and some partnerships to be able to provide people with some cannabis education, because to be honest, most of my clients use cannabis anyway. So
Listen,
here we are.
and so do mine. And some of them have a medical marijuana card, and some of them don't. And listen,
Right.
honey, I'm like, whatever. If if smoking marijuana is gonna make you stop having hearing them voices
Yeah.
and allow you to be able to function, do what you need to do. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Just so you know that there are, if you don't have a medical marijuana card, and then you have a situation where you're going to be tested at work, that they're, but see, once again, what I love about what you said, Kanisha, is that I'm sure you would explain all of that in the educational component.
Yes.
And so see, that's the
Yes.
part that's important. And people need to
Yes.
stop shying away and having that negative stigma of that, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also too, like a lot of times they over medicate. There's a lot of pathology when it comes to overdiagnosing Black and brown
Hmm.
people, especially with the DSM-5. That's why I am no longer insurance based, honey. I don't accept any
Mm.
insurance except Husky. I am
Ooh.
totally self-pay. Um, and I have a sliding scale, of course. And then also, because the insurance wants you to diagnose immediately, the first session. How can you
Right.
do that realistically? But anyway, we won't get into
Right.
that.
Right. Exactly. Right.
We won't get into that. But so I think the fact that if we remove that stigma and incorporate some of those healing practices that our ancestors utilized, things will be so much better.
Yes. 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 I agree, because it's a racist stigma.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
racist stigma. They named it marijuana because they wanted it to be attached to the Mexican culture. Like I know you
Wow.
ain't, but just like,
Wow.
yeah,
Ain't that
like
some see,
that's how
look, see?
deep it
That's how
goes.
deep. That's how deep. See?
It's deep,
See?
deep, and
Mm.
that's why I'm like, no,
See y'all, let me tell y'all viewers, do y'all need listen, are you accepting new clients, Kevnisha?
I'm not right now, but in
Oh
a couple
man, oh
months,
man. Well, do you have
definitely.
okay, so do you have a can they be put on a waiting list?
Yes, absolutely. I do have a waiting list. I do have a
Okay.
waiting list. So I encourage anybody to go to my website and you can fill out a submission form. And I have a very nice, pleasant office manager that will be happy to answer your emails or your phone
Okay.
calls.
That's
So by
awesome.
all means, I don't want anybody to I don't want the wait list to be a deterrent because, like I said, I'm definitely have plans to roll the cannabis education out. And again, I'm partnering with a company that has organic CBD. That's
Okay.
not marijuana because there's a difference, but
Yeah.
whole nother
Mm-hmm.
thing. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, so by all means, anybody can reach out, and I want to be able to connect or provide resources or make a referral. Um, the best way that I can. So I want to be of service, of help, the best way that I can. So feel
And
free, reach
also
out.
too, you on your I know that you do like different things in which like there are some meditate some resources and things of that nature that are free. So if you could kind of like tell our audience about that maybe they could tide them over until maybe you do have some openings.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So on my website, I do offer a free guided meditation video. So if you sign up and subscribe to my newsletter, I do offer a meditation video, and then also some apps. My favorite meditation app is called Insight Timer. That's
Mm-hmm.
one that's free. And then there is a Black owned meditation app called Liberate. So that one's not free. So I
Okay.
encourage I teach meditation as like a introductory skill because to
Mm-hmm.
me, like when we can control our breath, that means we can control our nervous system. And if we can control our
Mm-hmm.
nervous system, we can stay grounded and clear and rational about things.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for
You're
taking this time
welcome.
out. Can you tell our viewers one more time how to reach you, and also to follow you on your gram of Insta because she does do their meditation videos. There are also she does with therapy Thursday card.
Yeah, so
What
I
is it?
haven't done Therapy Card Thursday in a while, but starting next month, I am going to have a new series that I'm really excited about. So
Okay,
stay
okay,
tuned. Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay
okay.
tuned.
So
Yeah.
stay tuned. So
Content
there's
is
some things
coming.
popping
Yes.
up. All right,
Yes,
content is
yes.
coming.
Content is loading, loading.
Okay,
So
okay,
it's coming.
awesome.
So, yes. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Quality Counseling CT. And again, check my website out and get a free guided meditation video at www.qualitycounselingct.com.
Thank you so much again. First of all, I
Thank
really
you.
love the fact that you broke down so many stigmas when it comes to these big complex words called trauma and PTSD. And so I'm also glad that there is another resource that folks can reach that is near to New London. And so I appreciate you for sharing your time and your space for us. And y'all, we gonna see you for the next one, which is Who's in the Neighborhood, episode number 10. So I'm going to see y'all then. Stay tuned. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.